ASICS METASPEED SKY Paris trainers, a trip across London to Bushy Parkrun. Let's try and get a course PB, which is at 17 minutes 58 seconds, or 3 minutes 35 per kilometre, which you can view on the bottom left to see if I'm keeping on pace. Let's get to the action. You find us near the front of Bushy Parkrun, making sure we're not being held up by too many people at the start, going off at a pretty quick 3 minutes 20 per kilometre, but easing back before we get off this grassy bit and everything narrows up, allowing some of the rapid folks to come through before it gets a little bit tight and narrow. I have a 10k goal race in a week, which is why I'm not going for an overall PB, which is a 17:36. And at the start, at least for the first 2 kilometres, I really wanted to try and hit around 3 minutes 40 kilometre, which is that 10k goal speed, and then slowly turn on the gas throughout the run and get towards averaging that 3 minutes 35 and seeing if I can get that 17:58 course PB. And just before a minute in, we're doing just that. We're in a nice little pack going along around 3 minutes 40 per kilometre. The thing that was slightly challenging at this point is there's quite a few puddles I was having to avoid, and because it was pretty busy at this point, it was quite difficult to spot them. But, you know, just getting some wet shoes, it's not the end of the world. And the complaints need to be held to a minimum when the weather gods have produced a day such as today. 10 degrees, no wind in sight, absolutely perfect. And now it's time to get into some racecraft. Even though Parkrun's not a race, well, you know, racecraft in my race, trying to get a good time. Those two lads on the right, I decided, I know we're going along at 3 minutes 40 per kilometre, but I feel pretty strong at this point. I'm going to ease past you and see if I can get up to the pack that's forming a little bit further ahead, which to me reeks of the sub-18 hype train. And you can just see that guy on the orange top just ahead struggling with the puddles. They are a little bit of an issue at times here. Definitely a little bit slower than when I last did this race in October, when it hadn't rained for about 18 years. Pace check, we're going along now at 3 minutes 36 per kilometre, very close to the overall aim of this run. But it's a little bit quicker than I was hoping for at this point. I wanted to hit that 10k goal speed to really get that in my mind of what I needed to do next week. There's just so many lovely runners out today in the glorious sunshine that you just want to give it your best shot, and I was feeling really, really strong at this point. So just going with the flow and playing it kilometre by kilometre. One of these puddles here gave me a very soggy sock. Oh, sorry, complaining again. Lovely day. Let's go. Approaching the first kilometre mark, and I was feeling a little bit hedged in here behind these three lads, so I decided to just, ease myself in, give it a little burst, and see if I could just cling on to the little train ahead that I'm sure is still the sub-18 hype train. And there we have the first kilometres in 3 minutes 33, which I felt was a little bit quicker than it looked like I was going at the time, and my 500 metre splits were definitely more towards 3:36, 3:37, but Strava says what Strava wants, so we have to go along with that for now. But all we need to know is that we're feeling pretty strong, 168 heart rate. We're about 5 or 6 away from my threshold heart rate, so feeling not too bad. Whitecap ahead comes through here, looking pretty strong, but then eases up somewhat very quickly. So I'm like, yeah, I fancy you. Yeah, go on then, I fancy a piece of that. Rounding the corner on the edge of the cricket pitch here, and we're going along at 3 minutes 34 per kilometre. I had picked it up a little bit. I was really trying to stay with the little pack ahead. The guy in the white cap's on my inside here, trying to keep ahead of him. And we're still feeling pretty good. Heart rate is beginning to climb, and we will shortly know very soon whether in this day in history I've got a 17:58 in my legs and in my lungs. And I'm still feeling racy at the moment. I've eased up behind the guy in the red top, but Whitecap has come through. He's still looking very, very comfortable. And I always say that if a guy looks like Dr. Tempo, it's probably a good idea to try and stay with them, because if the speed is easy for them, they're probably not going to be be fluctuating too much up and down, and it will be quite consistent. So I've made the decision to follow him through past the red guy, and can he finally be the one to drag me along to the pack a little bit further ahead? And I'm definitely having to work now to stay with the guy in the white cap. He is dragging me along past another runner there on the right, but I'm working harder than I really would have liked to at this point. But I've made the decision that I'm going to try and stick with him as long as I can. Will that be to my detriment by the end of the run? And as we head back onto some mud and hit 2 kilometers in 3 minutes 36, going past another couple of runners now, a reasonable surge here. I had to really pick it up to stay with the guy with the white cap. We are very much on, as I have to jump over some mud there. We are very much on for around an 18 flat at the moment. We just have to stay with this guy. And that surge and leap across the mud had really taken it out of me a little bit. I decided to not go right on the heels of him at this point and just try and ease up, because the heart rate was beginning to climb towards the late 170s, and 3 kilometers to go pretty much. It's going to be really difficult if I want to get a sub 18 now. But I did quickly have another second wind, and I really pushed it to try and stay with him, getting in the 3-minute 20s per kilometre, slip and sliding a little bit on some of the puddles there, but you can hear my breathing starting to get laboured. 179 heart rate. There's still over 2.5 kilometres to go. I probably should have eased off it at this point. But these are the moments when we really test our resilience as runners. Next week in the 10K, it's going to start getting hard. Hopefully around 6-7K if I've paced it correctly. And then I can just know that I have that ability to push through pain for a reasonable amount of time and try and next week get that 10K PB. But today we still do have a chance of getting that course record, 17:58. I'm still sub 3:40 pace. Hopefully that guy in the white cap is just going to go smash a mid-17 here, because I don't think I can stay with him anymore. Yeah, the breathing is not sounding wonderful as we head towards the halfway mark. Things got out of hand very quickly there, as I was feeling so good 500 metres before. But that is running, everyone. You just never know where that breaking point is, unless you just squeeze up towards it. But still, we can get a good time here. Come on, the J-Mills. Skipping to 2.8 kilometres now, and the group we were with are edging away from us now. It is sad and tough to see. We are not far from our neighbourhood friend, the Pain Cave, at this point, but we're just going to give it everything we can to get as quick time as possible today. As this guy in the orange top comes through, we're very much going backwards, not forwards anymore. Almost at 3 kilometres, only 2 to go, and everyone loves the 4th kilometre, don't they? That 3rd kilometre, a 3 minutes 43. It's not a complete capitulation yet, but we are really struggling above 180 heart rate. The guy in the orange top's definitely helping me have someone to try and latch onto again. But he's starting to push away at this point. This is going to be mentally very, very, very tough. Rounding the corner now and heading on to what I've always found the toughest part of Bushy Parkrun. On the grass here, I'm an absolute wuss on grass. My ankles wobble all over the shot. And it's just a really tough place, that 4th kilometre in any race. And I just need to drag myself to that final kilometre where I know I can always give something a little bit extra. And I do manage to push on back up behind the guy in the orange top. I'm not dead and out of this yet, and I am thinking, actually, can I go past you? And he said, absolutely not, J Mills. You are in the bin. Get in my mud. And shortly afterwards, he absolutely buggers off. It was a fleeting battle, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. Look at him kicking his legs up towards his backside. Bye! And then he eases off again. I'm told parkrun isn't a race. That would prove otherwise. Very interesting. Turning left, finally off that grassy stretch, onto some lovely tarmac. 1.4 kilometres to go. We're almost in the final kick for home. I'm just about keeping orange top in my sights with hopes of a final dash to get him at the end. As red top comes through, I overtook him earlier. or as I like to refer to him as D Mills in 20 years. Oh, and Blue Top comes through. J Mills is struggling, but he's in the 340s still. I'm not going that slowly, but I did go off at around 18 flat pace, and I've probably eased off to mid-18 pace at this point, with hopes of a kick at the end to see how close I can get. The 4th kilometre is in. It's the slowest by far, at 3 minutes 51. I was basically a tortoise along that grassy stretch, but I did pick it up towards the end, and I'm now going in the mid 3 minutes 30s. So I'm hopeful we can still get fairly close to that 18 flat. I'm breathing heavily, mid 180 heart rates, but now there's just 900 metres to go. The lovely stretch of tarmac is no more, though. We turn right onto some compacted mud and grass in a second, back into some puddles as well. Moan, moan, moan. We're struggling to keep these lads ahead. I can just about see that guy in the orange top, but it would need an almighty surge to get anywhere near him at the end. I'm maybe 10 seconds behind him. It's rare at a park run at this point to be able to see so far ahead. You can see runners up there probably in the mid-17s who are going past the massive tree at the moment. We will be there again soon, but for now, we're just trying to get this one done as best as we can. Crossing the bridge, around 400 metres to go. It's the final stretch. Can we muster up a kick and get any of these runners ahead at the end? Let's now listen in on a spot of passion in full flow. There's the kick. Blue Top, you're in my sights. He turns around and puts me in my place. That happened a few times today. As I come across the line in an official parkrun time of 18 minutes 19 on the day, around 20 seconds out on the aim. Close-ish, but no cigar. It just wasn't quite in my lungs today. My legs felt pretty good, to be honest, but hopefully the goal race next week, that 10k race in Seaford, I can get a sub 37 or at least a PB, which is currently a 38.05. Thanks for watching, everyone. Tune in the week to see D Mills and W Mills in a bit of an interesting one. D Mills will be starting from the back, as we've done before, but W Mills will be starting from the front, and it's at Eastbourne Parkrun Summer Course, one that we haven't seen yet on the channel. See you soon, guys.